I'm signing an executive order to open up the pumps and valves in the north. We want to get that water pouring down here as quickly as possible and let hundreds of millions of gallons of water flow down into Southern California. And that'll be a big benefit to you. If you don't want it, you're going to tell me, but I can't imagine it. I tell you who does like it is the fire department. When I said that, they were very happy with that. They didn't mind hearing that.
We all could have predicted that Donald Trump's visit to California today was going to be a disaster, because Donald Trump himself is a disaster. But the reason it went so poorly and so quickly, really humiliating for Donald Trump, actually ended up being Melania. A bit of a shocker that she was the reason, also a bit of a shocker that she would want to spend any additional time with him. But maybe this trip is in their contract. But it was humiliating what Melania Trump ended up doing right as the plane touched down in California. And we are going to get into that shocking moment in just a second. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now, before we get into what Melania Trump ended up doing, I first want to hear from Governor Gavin Newsom. The reason for that trip, an invitation he offered to Donald Trump, and an attempt to get aid, not conditioned aid, but unconditional aid for his state from the president in this clip right here.
Even though you don't have an exact estimate, no one should expect you to, tens of billions is what you said, you're going to need, of course, money from the federal government.
100%.
100% going to need that. And as you've seen, House Speaker Mike Johnson suggested additional aid might have to come from with certain conditions. Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso said he expects funding to have strings attached. Senator Tuberville even said California doesn't deserve anything, saying, quote, unless they show us they are going to make some changes. You have been here on the ground in communities for the last week. What is your reaction to the response from leaders in Washington?
Well, if that's leadership, I have a different definition. I imagine it would be universally felt here. It's I'm not meeting Democrats, I'm not meeting Republicans, I'm not meeting Californians. I'm meeting American citizens desperate in need, and what they need is empathy, care, compassion, understanding. They need support, not rhetoric, not strings attached. I mean, I met families who lost not only their home, but their business and their church, their sense of self, place, community. They had a Zoom the other night, and everyone broke down crying because all they wanted to do was see the faces of one another. And yet that's the face of leadership in the United States of America, conditioning aid to the American people in need, politicizing this tragic moment. So I'll spare any more commentary on it, except to say I would encourage these people. They're human beings, they're parents. I respect that. Come out here, visit with these folks, and let's have a conversation after that.
I think it's important for people to understand that this is not historically, traditionally how federal assistance happens. It's typically done with strong bipartisan support, rarely with conditions that are as limiting as what they're suggesting. What is that about? Is it because California is considered a blue state? Why?
It's familiar. You know, the president-elect said of the previous governor of California, I hate Jerry Brown. He said in 2018 he was going to withhold FEMA funding because of fundamental disagreements. So they transcend. He's done that in Puerto Rico. He's done it in other states. So it's a state of mind, and that's well established, and was part of what I think people understood when they reelected him. But we hope that's just rhetoric. There is no success, American success, without California's success. So we're all in this together. That's why I have an open hand, not a closed fist with the president-elect. I want him to come out here. I'm sincere about that.
The idea that Gavin Newsom has to go out of his way to accommodate Trump so that those in Los Angeles who desperately need support from the federal government right now, support from the federal government often provided by California and their taxpayers, is absolutely absurd. Gavin Nome having to kiss the ring of Donald Trump, which is not what he's doing. Sure, he's speaking nicely to Donald Trump, but he's not acting like so many others have. He's being a leader right now. But the fact that Gavin Nome even has to ask, it's ridiculous. It's upsetting, and it's sad. And it's the reason why I think he was maybe a little nicer than he needed to be with the First Lady, with Melania Trump, because when the Trumps touched that down in California, Gavin Nome greeted the president. He greeted the First Lady. And Melania did something Gavin Nome that she doesn't even like to do with her husband. Let's take a look. Now, just a few days ago on Donald Trump's inauguration day, we saw Melania Trump wearing a big, weird brimmed hat, and everyone was so confused. Why? Why was she doing that? What was that all about? And then Donald Trump went in for a kiss, and it was blocked by the hat. Everyone's like, okay, that makes sense. No hat on Melania today, and if you didn't notice in that clip, gave a little hello PE to Gavin Newsom on the cheek behind Donald Trump's back mind. I know that there are more important things that we need to be talking about with regards to Donald Trump's trip to California, but considering how ridiculous he has acted, how disgracefully he has acted to the people that state, I think we can enjoy a little bit of Melania kind of embarrassing Donald Trump, and if you didn't catch it in that clip, you certainly will. Right here, we are allowed just a little bit of fun at the expense of Donald Trump, especially right now when we are having to beg and plead for him to send aid to California, unconditioned aid. Donald Trump saying that he needs voter ID laws to be in place in the state of California before he's willing to do so in the full amount necessary to recover, because voter ID laws famously stop wildfires. Yeah, great. Thanks, scientist. Trump, is he going to start talking about his relationship to MIT and how that makes him an expert on fire and fire departments, water? I cannot believe this is our president. It is incredibly upsetting, and it needs to be called out. And it was by Congressman Brad Sherman to Donald Trump face on the idea that he wouldn't be conditioning aid.
And I know you've talked about policies of California that you're not a fan of, but I've been in Congress for 28 years. I really disagree with Louisiana on their abortion policy. I disagree with them on their campaign finance policy. I disagree with North Dakota on their gun policy. And I would never turn to somebody from Louisiana and say, you keep living on your cousin's couch, because we're not going to help you rebuild until Louisiana agrees with me on a woman's right to choose. So I'm hoping that we can get these funds and that we don't punish individuals for the policies of their state. You can disagree with them, and I think you've got some ideas. I look forward to us listening. Also,
I love it. There have been several statistics going around today about how much aid is provided by the federal government, how much FEMA has to respond to disasters in Louisiana, Texas, Donald Trump's home state. A red state of Florida, as compared to California, which does contribute a lot more paying taxes to the federal government. And Donald Trump has never asked a question about Louisiana or Florida, North Carolina, where he was. Earlier today, he did accuse Democrats of withholding a picking and choosing based off political beliefs, which is what Donald Trump is immediately doing and what he did during his first term, already something we tried to tell people about. But now we have to call him out again and have to educate him on things he claims to be an expert on. Just listen to Mayor Bass right here.
The same, maybe a little bit longer, a little bit higher. They really shouldn't have to go through much of a process. So I want you to know that we are expediting that. We absolutely need your help. We need the federal help. You've
got it. I told you. You will have no permit problem. There will be zero delay. And as far as I'm concerned, you already have the permits.
And the resource.
I am more worried because I met at least 8 groups of homeowners, and I'm much more worried about the fact that they said it's 18 months exactly, and they were devastated. They want to start now. They want to start removing things. They're not allowed to do it now. And you mentioned hazardous waste. Well, the hazardous waste What's hazardous waste? I mean, you're going to have to define that. We're going to go through a whole series of questions on determining what's hazardous.
Nope, nope,
I
nope,
just think
nope.
you have to allow the people to go on their site and start the process tonight.
And we will.
Okay, good.
You can come
It's excruciating. It is a child as president. Once again, we had to, we warned people about this. We said what the situation was going to be. And here we are again in the same situation with Donald Trump, speaking in the same way, acting in the same way. I remember it was a couple of days ago, all these pundits, all these mainstream media figures telling me that Donald Trump is bringing unity, new tone, different guy, 80 years old, and now he's changed. No, this is the same stupid person, same angry person, same vengeful person, embarrassing our country by talking like this.
Get it. The trees were okay because the trees are loaded with water. They sucked that water out of the ground, and this was an inferno, just like, I would say, no different than this. And it was also the wind that caused a lot of problem. I mean, you had tremendous winds that there's not a lot you're going to do with. You had up to 100-mile-an-hour winds. It's unheard of. But when I was in Paradise, I noticed that the trees, they were dark on the bottom, but they were absolutely living, and they lived because they're soaking wet. But the trees that were on the ground, within 12 to 18 months, they say 18 months at a maximum, you have to cut them up, take them away because they're matchsticks. But we saw that. You saw that with me. I commented at the time. I said, look at this. The house is burned down and the tree is standing, and it's, other than being a little different color on the bottom, and it went through an inferno. It's amazing. It's soaking wet. So I think they have to do it. It's called management of the floor. And when the gentleman from Austria and also Finland and other countries, they said we manage the forest floor very, very carefully, and we don't have forest fires. You know, they just don't have them. So I'm sure you're going to do the same thing. So there can be no golden age.
I don't even know where to start. I can't with this guy. He's saying that he needs to put conditions on the aid. Big picture here. Donald Trump, we have to put conditions on the aid to California because they are mismanaging their response to these fires. There's some truth, and maybe we beef up the budget. Maybe we take greater precautionary steps. I am no expert, won't claim to be Donald Trump. And every Republican is right. They claim to be experts on this. And then Donald Trump sounds like that. Is that the guy who's the expert? That's the guy who's going to be reshaping this policy to keep people in Los Angeles safe. It's a joke. He's a joke, and I am glad Governor Nome is there for a little bit of leadership much needed, and apparently Melania thinks so as well. And we are going to keep talking about that every single day on the show. And if you want to support it as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.